Welcome to A Meaningful Marketplace.
I'm Sarah Masoni from Oregon State University's Food Innovation Center, where I've helped countless dreamers launch their new food products. It's the science of taking a food delight from the kitchen to mass manufacturing and still keeping its great taste. That's what I do. I've been called the woman with the $1 million palate, although I haven't tried to cash that check yet. Listen in weekly for real-life stories.
I'm Sarah Marshall, owner of Marshall's Hot Sauce and author of Preservation Pantry, modern canning from root to top and stem to core. I love inspiring business owners to get started on their journey, encourage folks to be part of their local community, and I'm excited to help business owners tell their stories. Hello and welcome to Masoni and Marshall, the Meaningful Marketplace. We are here weekly to discuss the journeys of food entrepreneurs. We are glad you've joined us today as we bring you stories of hope and inspiration. This is Sarah Marshall, owner of Marshall's Hot Sauce.
And Sarah Masoni of Oregon State University's Food Innovation Center. Hi, Sarah Marshall.
Hey, buddy. How are you?
Good. I just came back from Seattle.
Yeah, I saw that. Can you tell me what you were doing in Seattle and what you ate? Those are my top two questions.
Well, I went there with Amy. My husband and I have a daughter named Amy, and she has a side hustle. She has a company called Dora Pins. And there was a Disney pins meetup at one of the hotels downtown. So we were there. We had 2 tables and all kinds of people interested in pins showed up.
Yeah, and people can find Amy on Instagram. She makes beautiful, beautiful pins. I have not been to specifically a pin convention, but I have gone to a lot of the Comic-Con, WasabiCon, like the cons. They're really fun.
Yeah,
you meet so many great people. Everybody's so loving and nice, and they just walk around and be like, "Hey, great outfit! You look so good. I love your stuff." It's like, just go there for the compliments, man.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's fun.
Super fun. So you had a good
Creative.
time with your fam, and what did you eat? Any good food?
Well, no.
Well, next time, Sarah, let me tell you where to go.
I sent food back. I sent food back at my first dinner.
I saw that on your Instagram. I love to eat in Seattle. I think Seattle has, of course,
we should have asked
Portland
you
has
where
so
to
many
eat.
great restaurants. Seattle has even better, and because they're new to me. So, but I have specific places I go every time. So next time you and Amy go for a pin convention, please ask me where to go.
Well, we tried to plan it based on being gluten-free.
Yes.
And that wasn't a good way to go.
Yeah. You're usually good at navigating places that you can get gluten-free stuff.
Yeah, the
without.
Korean barbecue that we went to, it had nice ambiance and everything, but the beef was really tough.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we only ate the brevet. Everything else was terrible, and it was expensive.
Okay, well, next time, come to me first. I will guide you to only my favorite places.
That sounds great.
Well, Sarah, we have wrapped up our Idaho episodes, and we're moving on to a new state. Do you know what state we're moving on to?
The great state of Montana.
We're moving on to Montana. And Sarah, have you ever been to Montana?
I have been to Montana many times.
You have?
Yeah. I spent 3 weeks there last summer in our camper.
Oh, yeah, on your epic road trip.
Yeah, and also, Jan Tusek, who's going to be on some of the shows with us later in this group of episodes, she has hosted me at her log cabin.
Whoa, cool.
And I've worked inside of the Mission Mountain kitchen there in Ronan. I help them create their lentil burgers that are sold to all sorts of folks there in the school systems.
Well, I'm really excited to explore Montana with you, and we have a bunch of shows set up. I'm super stoked. I was just looking at our list, and, I have been to Montana one time.
You got to take your fam.
In the 90s.
You got to go to Phillipsburg and go to the gem mine. You can find sapphires. You have to dig through and pick sapphires out. That's
I've always
fun.
wanted to go rock hunting. I watched a show about it one time, and I'm sure this is what happens to everybody. You see one thing and you're like, ooh, that seems fun.
It's fun. You would like that.
Okay, well, maybe I'll be inspired after we record these shows. But it won't be just Sarah and I today. So as usual, we've partnered with the Regional Food Business Center to bring you guests from the 6-state region. And since we're exploring Montana, I'd like to introduce you to our co-host, Hailey Vine. She's from the Montana Department of Agriculture. Hailey, thank you for being our Montana expert while we meet all these fun new friends. Can you tell us about your role at the Department of Ag in Montana?
Yeah, hello. Well, thank you for having me on. Expert might be a stretch, but I will do my best. Yeah, so my title with the Department of Agriculture is Food and Ag Development Officer. And so I work specifically with our Food and Ag Development Center network to offer TA support to all of our food entrepreneurs, our value added agriculture entrepreneurs and businesses. And we just offer that business support for all of the clients and producers, farmers, you name it, as long as they're in the food space or in the agriculture, food supply chain space, we're assisting them. So that's my main role from the department, is overseeing our FADC is what we call them, our FADC network.
So Montana is doing a great job, I have to say, with all of their food and ag development centers that they've put together. I think they're kind of ahead of the other 5 states in the Regional Food Business Center.
Well, and Montana's a huge state, Hailey. So do you travel around or do you stick in one general region?
So I am based up in Kalispell, actually, so not far from Ronan and the Mission Mountain Food Enterprise Center. But the Department of Agriculture is based in Helena. But Helena, like you said, Montana is a huge state, and Helena is just one little dot on that map. And so that's kind of why they set this statute back in 2007 to create these food and ag development centers so that we would have boots on the ground support regionally across our entire state. So although I do travel to either offer support to our centers. I go visit them directly or visit different conferences that we have across the state if there's any type of promotion work. But otherwise, we really just leave it to our centers to do majority of the business support and TA provision or TA services to their region. So what started as 4 centers back in 2007 has actually grown, and we now have 11 centers scattered across Montana supporting these producers.
That's so amazing. So have you been to all 11 centers?
I have. And actually, that's how I got started with the department. Is before this role, I was a director of the Eastern Montana Food and Ag Development Center. So I was in Eastern Montana for about 3 years, and then my husband and I relocated to Western Montana, and that's when I changed positions and moved with the state. But it's been great because I still work with the same colleagues that I've built a relationship with, and some of the same clients that I've built relationships with over the past few years in this field.
Okay, so there's 11. Here's the question of the day. Can you name all 11?
Ooh, okay.
Pop quiz, baby.
Okay, we have Bear Paw in Havre, Beartooth in Joliet, Great Falls Development Alliance in Great Falls. We have Great Northern Development in Wolf Point, GH, Headwaters in Butte, the Mission Mountain Food Enterprise or Mission West in Ronan, the Montana Business Assistance Center in Helena. They are a newer center of ours. The Montana West Economic Development Center in Kalispell, they are also a newer center. LMNOP Prospera out of Bozeman, and then Snowy Mountain Development in Lewistown, Montana, and Ravalli County Development Authority in Hamilton, Montana. I think that's all of them.
You did it.
Alphabetical.
You get a gold star, and you're also
Definitely
teaching our listeners how to memorize things. Go in alphabetical order. It helps Hailey. It can help you.
Yes. Well, I mean, they're the 11. There's actually, I think, 15 because some of them have 2 staff members, but that's who I work with primarily. So they're my gang, and it's great. They're great people. They're very knowledgeable. And
is there brick and mortar at each one?
Yeah. So
wow.
Yep. So each FADC is housed within a economic development organization.
Okay.
So they're the host site in their town, and then they all have multi-county service regions.
How many counties are in Montana? Do you know?
56.
Wow.
Yep.
That's so many.
That is so many. That is so many. Some of them, they drive 2 hours one way to visit with one client. I mean, they utilize Zoom as much as we can, but also there's just something to that face to face, especially if you may be working with a more traditional rancher or farmer. Um, so yeah, you get some windshield time for sure.
Next quiz. What are the major crops in Montana?
For sure, wheat, pulses, and our cattle, I would say. But
Yeah.
commodities, I guess, is what I was thinking. But wheat, chickpeas, lentils, I would say are what we're known for, especially in the Golden Triangle in north central Montana.
Yeah, it's been interesting as we've gone through these different states because sometimes too for like Wyoming, like this whole state is very large, but there's not very many people in it. And so would you say Montana is a little bit like that? I mean, it's so big, but is it mostly because people own a lot of land and have big ranches and farms?
Yeah, I would say we're very similar to Wyoming. Wyoming has fewer people than us. I believe we're just over 1 million now. And I think we have a few micropolitans, not metropolitans, but we have a few cities. But we are definitely one of those states where our cattle outnumber our people. And I think it is because we have such vast acres and ranches. There's different parks too. We have, just like we have the grasslands, we also have grasslands and prairies. We have the mountains and different state parks and national parks in our state. So I think that attributes to it as well.
Well, and have you always lived in Montana, or have you relocated there?
Yeah, I'm originally from southeastern South Dakota. So similar in where agriculture is your number one industry. But I grew up with corn and soybeans. So then when I married a wheat farmer, it was like, this is so different. You're harvesting in July. Like, that's hot. That's not fun. So yeah, but I came to Montana for college. I went to MSU, go Bobcats, and met my husband and never left. So yeah, Montana's been home for a little over a decade.
What are some of the fun things that you've found yourself making with wheat in your home kitchen?
Oh, flour is an easy go-to, you know, like if we ever took our own, but we don't farm anymore. I should set that precedence.
Okay.
That's part of why we moved. But yeah, we would ground, not often, but I would ground our own flour. And then I got into sourdough pretty hard. So
it's super popular right now still.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And for good reason. It's delicious.
So I was just looking on your website and you have some great resources for people here. Can you tell me, have your folks used where was that one? It was the Niche Meat Processor Assistance Network.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Tell
They
me
are
about
an
that.
incredible resource. We work with them pretty closely, for sure through the Regional Food Business Center. They offer different support to us through that. But even just individually, we've worked with Rebecca Thistlewaite before on some projects. She works very closely with our MSU livestock agents as well. And I just think it's great what they do. Their newsletter to me is one of their most invaluable resources, especially when it comes to workforce. Being able to have a platform where you can post your jobs or seek jobs, I think has been really cool opportunity that they've provided. So yeah, we've had a lot of people reach out to them, whether it's our FADCs individually or their clients specifically.
So when you think about food systems in Montana, what would you say is the first step for somebody in Montana thinking about starting a food business?
For sure, get in touch with your local FADC. I think you need to sit down with someone who can talk about a business plan. I think sometimes people forego business plans because they just think, oh, I have this idea, I can just run with it. But the business plan makes you be thorough in categories that you didn't think of beforehand, especially when it comes to creating your financial projections and preparing to go to a bank for a loan, or if you want to apply for a grant. So I would always encourage someone to start with a business plan and just talking the idea out with someone else that can give you unbiased feedback.
So with each of these centers, do they also have regional farmers market systems in Montana?
Some of them do. It totally depends on where they're at. So when I was in Eastern Montana, farmers markets aren't very structured over there as they are in our bigger cities, because you just don't have the population where people are bringing in fresh produce, different items other than cattle. So it totally depends. But we also have a great partner organization, NCAT. They have a farmers market specific program, and they do farmers market manager training. So we work with them on different farmers market resources. But I would say it really just depends on what region of Montana you're in. It depends on what kind of prevalence of farmers markets you'll find.
And so are there any like cottage industry exceptions for somebody like, say, they're just baking chocolate chip cookies? Do they have to get fully licensed, or are there some exceptions for people like
Yeah,
that?
in Montana, we have the cottage food law, which covers people to, if they have their cottage food license, they can do those baked goods and such at farmers markets. And then back in 2000, oh man, was it 21?
Mhm.
Jan would know this really well, but we passed the SB 199, which is our Montana Local Food Choice Act. And so
Oh,
that really opened the door for other homemade goods to be able to go to the farmer's market, including raw milk.
oh,
So
that's a
there,
little
yes,
risky.
that really threw the local food world, I would say, like the doors kind of wide open for people who
Yeah.
wanted to get their toes in, get their toes wet. Is that the saying?
Hmm.
And so, but yeah, but we've had great working relationships with, DPHHS and their county sanitarians. We've hosted so many workshops educating people on the difference between cottage food law and SB 199. Have had great meetings with the Department of Livestock to make sure, meat is not part of that, reminding people you can't just bring meat to a farmer's market ever. So yeah, it's been interesting to see how those two have really impacted our local food systems, especially in the rural areas.
So for all of the county fairs and stuff like that, have you had your state fair yet in Montana?
I believe we did, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
in
That's fun.
Helena. Yeah, I think it was a couple weeks ago.
That's fun.
Well, speaking of important resources, we would like to encourage you to connect with your state by signing up for the Regional Food Business Center newsletter. It's a breeze to sign up. Just go to Northwest Rocky Mountain Regional Food Business Center.com, hit connect with us, and then choose the button to receive newsletters. And we want to thank our sponsor for supporting Masoni Marshall. Thank you for helping us spread the word about small business owners and entrepreneurs. We'll be right back and talk to Hailey more about Montana. The Northwest and Rocky Mountain Regional Food Business Center is the proud sponsor of the Meaningful Marketplace podcast, giving a voice to food from across the 6-state region of Colorado, Idaho, Montana, Oregon, Washington, and Wyoming. The Food Business Center supports Northwest and Rocky Mountain food industry makers as part of the USDA's National Network of Food Business Centers, supporting a more resilient, diverse, and competitive food system as a go-to source for small and mid-tier food and farm businesses, with a focus on underserved communities, providing education in the form of technical knowledge, business programs, and industry news. We sponsor trade shows, meetups, and conferences to connect growers, producers, retailers, distributors, and processors, all to stimulate business and raise the standards of our storied food industry. Join us as we travel through the 6-state region, learning more about food makers, food hubs, and food systems. Visit the website at Northwest Rocky Mountain Regional Food Businesses.com to get connected.
All right. So I know there's snow in Montana. Does Montana have like regions of weather? I know Oregon sort of does. I never really thought about Montana in that way.
Oh man, when I think of Montana, I always think Billings stays hot. Like I feel like it's kind of the hot spot in the summer, and it seems like in the winter they have a milder winter than other areas. That's just what I've observed. Because there's times where I would be in northeastern Montana, and my husband was in Billings, and I would be plowing out our driveway, and then he'd send me a picture, and the snow's melted on the sidewalks down there. They say Kalispell is kind of the banana belt of Montana when it comes to winters, just because we're more in that northwestern niche and that climate. But no, everyone definitely still gets true winters here, regardless.
So what are some of the value-added food industries besides beef that you've seen emerging with your work in the Food and Ag Development Network?
Yeah, man, we've seen a lot. We've seen people doing pierogies utilizing local product. Lentil crunchers was a big one with just roasted lentils that were seasoned. If you haven't tried those, they're amazing. Chickpea flour has been a really cool one, and then gluten-free. So they've been able to hit a whole different market. I think oats too, people being able to do different blends of oats and create waffles and other gluten-free type English muffins and products like that. So it's been interesting. And then one thing that's been newer for me in this role is getting to know our berries and the different berries that we can grow here. So for sure, some jams and jellies.
What are some of the
and
berries? I know
juices.
you grow cherries for sure.
Yeah, cherries are definitely a good one. And then honeyberries or haskaps. If you haven't tried those are amazing. I was blown away. I had never had them before this job. So we have different businesses turning those into jellies or barbecue sauces. We have the service berries or the Saskatoons, which are indigenous to Montana. What other ones?
I've never heard of
Huckleberry, of course.
either
Everyone
one
knows
of those
huckleberries.
berries that you said.
Oh, you need to try them for sure. Oh, they're so good. So good.
So one time I was there and I had antelope stew.
Did you like it?
It was great. I've
Yeah.
never eaten antelope before. I was just curious. Have you had antelope stew before?
I have. It's an acquired taste, I think, sometimes though.
Yeah.
Especially you don't want to overcook the meat.
Yeah.
We have
I
all
like
kinds
lamb.
of great guests, Montana guests lined up. We're going to talk to some ranchers. We are going to talk to someone who makes sauces. We're going to talk to someone who does
Breakfast cereals, I think.
Yeah, breakfast cereal. We
Oh,
have
yeah.
so many things. I'm really excited about it. And then when you were talking about the popped lentils, we had somebody I met at the fancy food show that I think is going to be on from Montana that does they were so good. She did some dill pickled popped.
Yeah, that was probably
lentils.
41 grains.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
Yep. So they do the lentil crunchers and the chickpea flour.
That's cool. So, Hailey, now that you've been working in Montana for several years and you know all about starting food businesses, how come you even started your own food business?
I guess it's definitely crossed my mind. I have a notes page in my phone of when we
What you would do?
Yeah. And then when we have this small acreage, okay, I'm going to plant this. I know which berries to put next to each other because they can't self-pollinate and different things like that, different growing techniques. I don't know. I've just loved this supportive role. I think there's a lot of incredible people that have that passion, that are crushing it, that I love being in the role to support that passion. So I think that's where I am at this point in time.
That's really fun. I feel like every time I talk to somebody from the Department of Agriculture, they always have kind of an idea on the back burner though.
Yeah, you learn so much for sure.
Yeah, I think you wouldn't be in that role if you didn't care about agriculture and about what's growing, and so they're either partners with somebody who's a farmer or have thought about having a business or have had a business or have future plans for a business. I think that's pretty common, but also we need people to be in those roles and not just leave and go start their businesses. we need you to be able to have our own businesses. somebody has to be supporting us and making sure we're doing everything the right way.
There are some case studies on the website, and I was just wondering, do you know anything about Speedy and Flow sweet corn expansion?
Oh, are you looking at our success stories?
Yeah.
Cool. Those are kind of newer to the site, so I'm glad you're checking those out. So the Montana Department of Agriculture has an annual grant program called the Growth Through Agriculture Grant, and it goes to different businesses to help them support different activities that are adding value to the Montana agriculture, either doing things in an innovative way or addressing our food supply chain system. Really, the projects are very, very diverse. So Speedy and Flows, if I remember correctly, they are doing sweet corn down in Hardin, Montana. and they've been doing it for a while now. But I think they're trying to expand into doing more wholesale, or not wholesale, more direct produce items than just their sweet corn.
Yeah,
if I'm
they put
remembering
in a
correctly.
greenhouse, it looks like.
Yeah, the success page is where we just try and promote different ways that our FADCs have supported local producers. And it can range anywhere from different grants they receive to different webinars or trainings they've hosted, or even connecting people through our different resource or our enhancement program that we have going on through the Regional Food Business Center. So that could be an example of different ways that we're promoting these businesses.
I see you did like a HACCP, hazard analysis, critical control point training. You have summer camps for kids, seed farmers doing stuff. Yeah, it seems like a really good program.
Yeah, and I guess that's a plug I can make. Through our RFBC funding, we were able to create the Food and Agriculture Business Enhancement Program. And so this allows different food entrepreneurs and value-added businesses to access basically like education and knowledge that they need to get their business to the next step, or to get to where they can make some type of capital infrastructure investment for their business. And so some examples of that is they can work with our Montana Manufacturing Extension Center out of Bozeman to do any type of lean training or plant layout analysis or HACCP training. They can work with our food product development lab for recipe development and extrusion, sensory testing, or they can access an outside resource, which Sarah and I were talking about this earlier. We've had a few go to OSU's Food Innovation Lab. So it's been cool to see how we can bring more resources to these clients and just kind of help them get in the door without the upfront costs. And it also helps them with some risk mitigation. Our favorite success story, honestly, has been we had a business go to our food product development lab, and they worked with them for about 5 hours, and the food product development lab discovered that their product was not feasible. And that's a huge win for us. This client could have spent hours and a bunch of dollars going for this project. If they hadn't sought out this professional resource, they may have been just in a sinking ship for a while. So it's been great just to see how we can connect people with the right resources to thrive.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will hear about what a typical day is like for Hailey at the Montana Department of Agriculture. We'll be right back.
Oregon State University's College of Agricultural Sciences and the Food Innovation Center are proud sponsors of Meaningful Marketplace. With a mission to serve all Oregonians, we are committed to giving voice to those whose food and agricultural stories are not always heard. By providing access and opportunity for a more diverse and just food system, because food brings people together. All right, Hailey, you can tell the truth. Do you start at 7 a.m. every morning?
I start at 8 or try to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Walk us through what a day is like for you, Hailey.
Oh man, every day is so different, which I guess what can you expect when you work with 11 different centers, and then you're doing work with the Regional Food Business Center as well. But basically I start my laptop and I get chipping away at emails and start from there. There's a bunch of different active projects. So I believe in project management is like takes up a lot of my day of just staying on top of what's happening with which center, what's happening with which project. Is it a state project? Is it just a regional project? No one's ever asked me that.
Well, we won't tell your boss.
But yeah, then I have check-ins with my boss. So.
Yeah.
And what would be an example of some of those projects that you're overseeing and managing?
One would be our business enhancement program, so BEP.
Mm-hmm.
So for businesses to access that, they have to go through an FADC. And so the FADC submits an application on the client's behalf. So I have to review those, make sure they fall in line with our program intent, and do kind of some of the back end with that. I try and keep the success stories as active as we can. So I'm bothering the centers to get me success stories and getting their write-ups done, getting the graphics put together with our communications team, and just trying to keep our page up to date. I feel like that's super important when you're trying to encourage people to access this as a resource. So that's a big thing for us. And then have some different projects that we're doing cross collaboration with the different entities, such as MSU. We're working on some agritourism stuff right now, which we're really excited about, which is very value added, in my opinion. It's just not on the food scale of value added. So that's been really exciting.
Tell us a little bit about Abundant Montana programming.
Abundant Montana is a great partner that we have. So they got started through the Alternative Energy Resource Organization, otherwise known as ARROW. And the best feature that we point our producers to is their local find food and farm map. And that is a great resource for people to find local food. I used it when we moved to Kalispell. I needed to find a new meat supplier. So I went right on that map and found someone. So we really encourage a lot of our businesses to get connected with them. It's free to be on that map. And then you have the option to become a member of Abundant Montana. I think it's very, very reasonable. It's like $50 a year. And through that, you have access to different resources and promotions that they also offer. They can do marketing consultations and different trainings and workshops. So we've partnered with them to offer those resources to some of our producers. So yeah, Abundant Montana has been a very big player in the local food system in Montana for a long time.
Yeah, the information on there is pretty thorough, and you can search by the type of food you're looking for, the resource you're looking for, or you can search alphabetically, which is really cool.
Yeah, they've done a lot with that map over the last few years.
And Hailey, we're going to be spending a lot of time together through these next, few weeks. And so what's important to me is I like to know what kinds of food you like to eat. So tell me what your favorite things to eat are. They don't have to be Montana related necessarily.
Yeah, I am on a peach kick right now because they're in season. So I'm eating so many peaches and beef sticks. Can never go wrong with beef sticks. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. Those are my two big things. I'm also expecting, so I think pregnancy
certain things taste good and others don't.
Yeah. So every week is so different.
So for peaches, I love making like a fresh peach pie. Have you ever done that?
No, I actually have all the recipes out on my counter to do a peach sourdough crisp this afternoon.
Ooh, that sounds great.
So for fresh peach pie, what you would do is make like a quick Bisquick crust where you just sort of make a biscuit, but you put it in the bottom of the pan and you bake it, put lots of fork pokes in it. And then you cut your peaches. You can peel them or leave them unpeeled, and just layer them in there until they make a nice rounded pile. And then you make sort of like a topping out of peaches. So you would peel the peaches and you mush them up and use some cornstarch and sugar, and you just pour that over it.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
You can serve it with whipped cream.
Oh, that sounds so good. I might have to go.
So easy and so delicious. And it lasts for a couple days in the fridge. So every night after dinner, you can sit on the couch and eat a piece.
Oh gosh, that sounds so
the best.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
This time of year, I am picking up like just hundreds of pounds of peaches from our peach farmer, Baird Farm, that does the market with me, and I make a peach barbecue sauce for them that is so good and so fun. And so that's actually what we've been actively working on in these last few weeks. And my daughter is always stoked because peaches are her favorite.
That sounds delicious.
Today we canned like 40 cans of tomatoes, Sarah Marshall, at the Food Innovation Center.
Oh, you did? Fun.
Wow. And we made 18 jars of relish.
Wow, you're busy.
I was channeling my inner Sarah Marshall.
Perfect. I love that. We have little tiny orchard in our front yard, but when we first moved in, we had a couple of peach trees and they kind of looked just really sad. And I was like, those are never going to grow peaches. And then I noticed that they had peaches this year and I got so excited and I went to go up to the mountain for just like a few hours And then we had a crazy hail and windstorm.
Oh, no.
And I had left and I was like, there's peaches on the tree. I'm so excited. I'm going to go pick those peaches. And then I came back and they were like annihilated.
No.
Yeah, none. So there was maybe 10 peaches, but they all got knocked off, hailed on. So they were like bruised, gross, like mushy, like, and I was just gone for a little while. But peaches are a fragile crop, I'm learning.
Fragile.
Oh, dang.
At least for Oregon weather. I should have picked them before I left. Next time when I see them on the tree, I'm going to be like, I'm just going to go get them. And then
That's
I will
a
go
message,
wherever I need to
when
go.
you saw them, you're like, you should have oh yeah, I got to pick them right now.
Yeah. Well, I was like,
Now you
whatever.
know.
The sun is out. It's fine. Well, that doesn't
Next
matter.
year you'll have 50 peaches.
I hope so. I'm excited. Peaches are my favorite too. And because you mentioned that you were pregnant, and when I was pregnant, I went crazy and wanted, so of course I make hot sauce. I wanted the spiciest things in the world. Like every hot sauce that I made was not spicy enough. All I wanted to eat was spicy food and then whipped cream. So Sarah, when you mentioned whipped cream, I was like, I would probably, when I was pregnant, I probably would have put hot sauce on that peach pie you made. And I would have been like so happy. My mom
You
thought it was
could
so
make
weird
that-
to watch me eat. She was like, "It's
That
kinda
topping,
gross."
you could make it spicy with some cayenne.
I think I would have.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
My husband jokes that pepper's too spicy for me.
Yeah, that was not the case for me. I wanted the craziest, spiciest stuff I could get.
I think we have to wrap it up.
Yeah, we do. So Hailey, I'm super excited to get to know you more and to have you guide us through Montana. And I'm just stoked that you're here with us. So thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. I look forward to these next few weeks.
We want to thank our listeners for tuning into our show. We love our food community and want to connect with you in person and online. You can reach out to Sarah and I via our Instagram, Meaningful Marketplace Podcast. And we record live every week. You can find us on all your favorite podcast platforms like iTunes, Spotify, and now on YouTube. And we would like to thank our Joy of Creation production house. Thank you to Kayleen, our production coordinator, and Hailey, our sound engineer. And if you want to be a guest on the show, you can send us an email, booking@joyofcreation.com. We will be back next week, everybody. Bye.
Bye for now.